Thank you for another fantastic session of Meet the Authors. Today I have Adrienne with me, and we're going to talk about her books and what inspired her to write. So, Adrienne, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Now, I know you are a writer and you got two books right now, two physical books, but I want you to tell our listening audience a little about who you are and what makes you the person that you are today.
Well, as you mentioned, my name is Adrienne Jenkins Hunt, and just over the course of my life, I finally accepted the notion that yes, I am a writer. It was a very difficult thing for me because I'm a teacher by nature and then a preacher by calling. So to actually say, yes, I write, what was a big step for me. And it's a journey that I've been on with God for about 10 years now. I wrote my very first book, honestly, just to see if I could self publish a book.
Mm,
Um, I by day I'm a business coach, and so what I wanted to do was empower people. I noticed that most of my entrepreneurs, one of the things that was holding them back in their business was something on the personal development area. So I
mhm.
actually just wrote a quick book, motivational, just to see if I could do it. The book that I sent you the most information on, though, You've Got to Fight Through This,
Mhm.
is my personal testimony. It talks about the literally worst season of my whole entire life, where we suffered the loss of my mother in law, my father, my son got divorced. But the primary driver of that book was my husband was diagnosed with cancer,
Mm, mm.
and it was a very aggressive, like, he never gets sick.
Mhm.
And so when, most people, when they get sick, they catch a cold. I told him, when you get sick, you caught cancer. And
Mm.
so he was diagnosed at stage 4. And so
Wow.
it was a matter of fighting, which fight is an acronym for me, how we got through that situation. So it's my personal testimony.
Well, and you said FIGHT is an acronym for you. Can you give our listening audience what that acronym is when you say fight?
When you have to fight, when I say you have to fight through this, you have to face your situation. You have to you, and I don't want to go too because I get a little emotional about it. We're coming up on kind of like an anniversary.
Mhm.
But you have to face it. You have to um can I, and I know you're doing a video broadcast and you're probably going to edit this piece of it out. Can you do that part for me?
Sure.
Um,
Sure.
okay.
I know. It sounds like to me, fight is a little touchy for you, even though you have the acronym for it, because I understand what it's like when you write about yourself. Because now you're sharing things that are going on, the time period, and so it can be a little, um, it can touch you to a place where you probably don't want to go at this time. And
Well,
so, go ahead.
it is, and part of it is because my husband just celebrated his birthday, and I'm celebrating my birthday tomorrow.
Oh wow, happy
So
birthday.
thank you. So it's I don't know. This whole week has been surreal, but so fight.
Well, I understand. Can you show our listening audience the two books that you have?
Certainly I can. This is the cover. You've got to fight through this. And then the other one, let me start with this one, Green Light, and Green Light and Other Motivating Messages. And what this book was about was, like I said, it's a compilation of blogs.
Mhm.
So Green Light was actually, I wrote a blog while I was sitting stuck in traffic waiting to be able to go. So
Mm.
this is where I first introduced the concept of finding a new normal, the two-letter word. It's a very short book, and I wrote it, and actually placed it at this size so
Mhm.
that people keep it in their desk. People keep it in their purses. I still have people come up to me and say, "Oh yeah, I had a situation at work, and then I ended up having to just reach down in my purse and say, oh, the two-letter word. Yes, now I know how I need to handle that situation." And so that just really kind of helps people. And like I said, you've got to fight through this. You know, the
Mhm.
struggle is real.
Yes.
If you will face it, face
Mhm.
your situation, then you've got to identify a strategy to
Mhm.
help you get through it. You've got to get help
Mhm.
because you cannot do it
Do it
all by
alone.
yourself, not ever in this lifetime. You've got to handle your setbacks, and there will be setbacks. My husband actually went through 3 separate rounds of chemotherapy, which every time they told him that he had actually gone into remission, and then
Mhm.
he would get to a certain point and we'd have to do it all over again.
Oh
And
no.
then the T, of course, stands for trust God and your instincts. And I knew if I gave myself a moment, I could get through it. So thank you for that, because it really, um, going into the season that we're going into now, and so much of that struggle is finally behind us. I find myself getting quite emotional when I think about
Mm.
that whole season.
And I truly can relate to that because it's like, okay, you're going through something during a particular season, and when that season comes up, it's like you remember again what you went through.
Oh yeah.
But
Oh yeah.
but you can get through it, and I know you can. You're a strong person.
Absolutely.
So, can you tell our listening audience how they can get copies of your books?
Yes, my books are available for purchase directly from my website. So you can go to www.hunts2cents, which is HUNTS, the number two, and then CENTS.com. I sell my books now directly from my website versus having them on Amazon or anything like that. And then, of course, if you're ever at a conference where I'm speaking, then I also sell the books directly.
Now, you mentioned something, and I have a question for you about that because a lot of our listening audience are either writers, they wrote a book, or they're trying to learn the marketing side of it. And so a lot of them, when they write that book and get that book published, they run to put it on Amazon. Why did you choose not to have it on Amazon?
I actually had both of my books on Amazon at one point.
Mhm.
But the thing about Amazon, Amazon does a couple of things. One, if your book is not moving the way they feel that it should move, then
Mhm.
they can actually price down your book, which then, of course, takes away from the revenue that you would make. To
Right.
me, the whole purpose of self publishing was so that I could have control of the book. The other thing is with Amazon, other people can sell your book, especially because it's print on demand. And
Right.
so, again, they can price it differently. And you've got to fight through this was such a personal work for me that when I saw someone else selling my book and they came up higher in the search algorithm even than I did because they sell everybody's books. Um,
Mhm.
I was devastated. I
Wow.
cried. I called Amazon and I was like, how can you let someone else sell my story? So to protect my story, I took it down. The thing about traditional publishing is
Mhm.
they will take a book, and they have that cycle where the book comes out, it sells so many, and then it kind of goes down. And even in bookstores, they start to move it to the back of the shelf. But
Mhm.
if you are an indie author, your book stays out there as long as you want it out there. And so I just didn't want Amazon to have that much control over something that was such a huge piece of me.
Wow, and I know, because I've had several books on Amazon, so I know what you're talking about. Um, I actually started putting my books on my own website as well. But just so we can let our listening audience know, some parting words, what would you give our listening audience? What are some parting words that you would give our listening audience?
As it relates to being an author, if it's in your heart, write it. Even if there's only one person that is blessed from the words that you put out, that one thing can make such an impact. As far as dealing with tough times,
Mhm.
because as a nation, we're in very tough times and people are really, really afraid. But the thing is you can't just lay down and let life roll over you. If you can find the courage to stand in faith on what God said to you and fight for what your dream is, fight for your marriage, fight for your finances, fight for your kids, it may be a struggle, but it'll be worth it in the end because we're supposed to not just go through our struggles, but grow through them as well.
Oh, I like that. Grow through our struggles because so many people sit there and they're struggling and they're worrying about things. And when you sit still, you can't go anywhere. But if you move and make something happen, you can grow.
Let me, if you don't mind me asking, I want to explain a little bit where I got the title from, just because of what you said.
Mhm.
It was right after my husband was diagnosed with cancer the first time, and I was driving to work because I still worked outside of the home. And James Fortune and Fire came on, and he was singing "Live Through It."
Mhm.
Grow through it, get through it. And
Mhm.
I was at the traffic light and I just started to cry and I cried and I cried and I cried. And then I just heard God say, live through it, grow through it, but you've got to fight through it.
Do it.
And so that
Mm.
is where this title came from. And I knew that if we did not fight, my husband would not be here today.
Wow.
It took every ounce of faith, every bit of everything that was in us, but I knew that we were fighting for his life. And so I endeavored to be able to tell other people how we actually fought. So this book, it doesn't necessarily give you that acronym, but it gives you the actual, this is what we did to get through that. So I
Wow.
pray it's a blessing.
Well, I'm going to, before I end this podcast, I'm
Mhm.
going to ask you once again to give your website where they can purchase your books, how they can get your books, because especially that book, I think that's an awesome book. And I haven't read it, but just hearing you talk about it, that faith walk. And a lot of people need to have that faith walk, especially in these times. So, Adrian, can you share with our listening audience once again, what is your website? How can they get your books?
The website again is www.huntstwocents.com, and that's HUNTS, the number two, and then CENTS.com. And I'll actually bring a copy of this for you in January.
Okay, great. I'm looking forward to it. Um, I saw your post on when Vincent interviewed you, and that was really great. And I'm looking forward to you being here for the Reset Conference.
Thank you for
So,
having me.
you're welcome. Thank you for being on Meet the Authors. And next time we've got a few more authors that we're going to interview. But Adrian, you gave enough information that if a person is a writer or they're thinking about publishing, they can actually do it. If you did it, they can do it too.
Exactly.
Meet the authors. Thank you again.
Have a great day.
You as well.